Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
We are speaking with the one and only Albert Bouchard, or Bouchard, I guess you say in English, right? But in French we say Albert Bouchard. Can we be French for you? Can we be French today?
I can't speak French, unfortunately, except for when I'm in France. Then I kind of, it forces me to go back in my memory to what little French I know.
Yeah. We are discussing the album Imaginos, Bombs Over Germany, -0 and counting. And as we say here in Montreal, bonjour, Albert, or Albert, as we would say in Montreal. How are you?
Très bien.
Très bien.
Merci.
So we're going to discuss this now. This is part of the trilogy that was started, I guess, back in the 80s, right? This is album number 2?
Yes, exactly.
So let's go back. Your I guess manager at the time, Sandy Perlman, had written these series of poems that you ended up turning into an album. I guess the intent was to launch it as your solo career. Talk to me about the beginning or the genesis of Imaginos.
Okay, so the very beginning started, for me anyway, was in 1967 when I met Sandy Perlman, right. And he told me the story, or he told the whole group of us, and at that point we knew him as a writer for Crawdaddy magazine. So he said, "Well, I know all these people, and I can get you a record deal and all this other stuff," and so we didn't realize that, he wasn't really a manager. He was just a writer, who had connections. And he came from not a wealthy family, but a family that was pretty well off.
And talk to me about finally working this into this album that came out in 88 and why you've decided in 2021 to sort of take up the mantle and say, hey, you know what? We said it was going to be a trilogy. Now it's going to be a trilogy.
Right. Okay. So while we were making the first record, and the other thing is that it was never supposed to be my solo record in the very beginning. He wanted Blue Oyster Cult to record this album, and they didn't really want to. They liked some of the songs, but they didn't want to do a whole album of Sandy Perlman songs, especially after we had the hit and we saw a disparity between the people, the financial disparity between the people who wrote the songs and the people who played them. So right. After Reaper, everybody wanted their own songs on the record, so that was another thing. And also we started using other, I'm outdoors here and it's raining, so.
Hey, it's raining here too. Hey, in fact, can I just stop you there? I want to ask you about that because bands seem to have this fight all the time. It's been historically, you've got the guy who wrote the song who's driving around the Lamborghini, and the guy who played drums on it has a beaten up old Honda, and you go, what the hell? I mean, you listen to Aerosmith and Sweet Emotion, you hear the bass line from Tom Hamilton, I should say. Aren't those parts as much of writing and making those songs great as the lyrics? I mean, shouldn't the drummer who came up with the fill and the crash at the right time, isn't that part of the, it should be split among all members all the time? It's crazy.
That's actually, I think that's changing now, right. Because in the United States we have this thing called Sound Exchange, and right. Sound Exchange splits the money evenly between all the players on the record. I was there. I saw Tom Hamilton working out the part. I mean, I was sitting with him in the lounge at the record plant while he was working his ass off trying to get this right. Right. And I was like, hey man, that's a great bass line. He goes, yeah. I haven't quite got it yet, but it's going to be great.
Right. And it's as important to that song as any of the words that were thrown out by Steven Tyler, if you ask me.
More important, really, except for the hook. The hook was great, and that was Steve. Well, actually, it wasn't Steven. It was Joe Perry, who, when they were watching Young Frankenstein, had the idea to have that as the title. So
Yes, but I see with Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper becomes a hit, and everybody's going, "Hey, I didn't get my percentage," and now fighting
right,
starts, and
right,
it,
yeah.
it, it seems dumb to me. No offense.
Well, I was the main writer on most of the songs. I mean, from the very beginning of the band.
Right.
I didn't write Reaper, but when I was writing all these songs, I was like, guys, we shouldn't be arguing about whose song and who did what and all of this other stuff. Let's just do it like the Doors and split everything equally.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that wanted to do that. Nobody else, And as a main songwriter, you would think that that they would be for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, then all of a sudden it seemed like, that they weren't trying to they were more out for themselves than out for the group, and I thought that was a bad thing. So, yeah, I think that the way that things are going now, I think is the way it should be, that anybody who plays on a record should get part of that writing credit. But I worked for many years with this guy Mark Barkin, who he had 60 top 40 hits in the 50s and 60s. He started writing, and he wrote for Elvis and all these people, and he would get furious when I would suggest that. He's like, no, the song, you can't. Just because somebody played on it, they can't get credit for writing it, So then what happened was that the writer's share started getting smaller and smaller all the time. So I would say, well, I just got a check for, $40,000, and they go, oh man, I got a check for 400. So
I got a check for $4 the other day, so
Yeah.
No, but anyway, I mean, you can debate it forever and always. Yes, if you just sort of show up and are told, "Hey, play this guitar part," you're not a writer. But if you're like Tom Hamilton, and you're coming up with a whatever. Anyway, so talk to me about wanting to finish this trilogy, because I mean we are revisiting this. Let's do the math here. 33 years, 38 years later or something. I don't even know what it is. My math is terrible.
Yeah,
33?
33, I think.
30. Yeah, so talk to me about saying, hey, you know what? We said we'd make a trilogy. I know it's 30 years late, but let's do it. Let's finish it.
That I have to say that extremely personal, because I think that while at first, I think I was bowing to pressure from the fans who were like, you really should, if you can't remix the original, record, which I really wanted to do, and I had offered to do several times to Columbia, and they kind of stonewalled me about it. So, and I expressed that to the fans, and some of these fans that would write to me, and they would say, well, you should do your own version. So I was thinking about doing that, but the other factor in that is that, and that was really, it was just going to be one record. But then as I started working on it, I started thinking about Sandy Pearlman and, how important he was to me as a friend,
right?
Number one, and number two as a manager, and number three as a co-writer, co-producer. So, and the bottom line is that when he had his accident in San Francisco, I was working in the high school then, and so it was hard for me to leave. But he was in a coma, and so Robert Duncan, the writer, was the person who was taking care of Sandy. He would go to visit him in the hospital, talk to the doctors, and sort through the maze of the healthcare that we have in this country.
Right.
And so Robert was doing all of this work, and I said, Robert, if Sandy comes out of the coma, let me know, because I want to go and talk to him, And so he did come out of the coma in February of 2016. So I went to the hospital, and he couldn't talk, but I ended up talking to him for hours and hours for the entire, I would get there when visiting hours started, and I would leave when visiting hours stopped. So it was about 8 hours for 2 days because it was on the weekend because I couldn't really take off from my job that long. So, and also it was like, well, I don't know, you talk to somebody for 8 hours and they can't reply, he would blink his eyes or, he'd move his finger or his toe or something or emotional reactions, we cried a lot. So, but I sang songs to him. And one of the things that I said is, Sandy, you've got to get better because we have to finish the trilogy. I mean, we said it was going to be a trilogy in the beginning. And then, when we actually wrote songs for the next chapter and we had decided on songs that Blue Oyster Cult had done that would fit in there. And so I need your help to finish this thing. I'm going to do it because I have my own record company. I'm putting out my own records and I don't care if it sells or not. I just want to do it. And so, so when I was working on Reimaginos, I thought about that and I said, yes, I made a promise to this guy while he was dying, and I'm still alive, so I need to do this. I need to do this for me and for his memory and for people to know that he was really ahead of his time. He was extremely talented and just a great storyteller. So I felt like the story needed to be told. That's basically. Yeah.
And you're getting it done now. Let me ask you just real quick about the players on this because I'm reading the liner notes here and it says features Ross the Boss, Joe Ceresino, and then of course reunites original Blue Oyster Cult members Eric Bloom, Buck Dharma, Joe Bouchard, and current member Richie Castellano. Talk to me about that, about getting back with the old guys because there must have been some bad blood. I mean, we know that it didn't play out the way it should have played out. There was no happily ever after. But as you get older, you sort of go, F it. Let's just come on. Life's too short.
That's pretty much it. I think that really the turning point with Blue Oyster Cult, and because I had made overtures to get together and talk about what happened, and none of them wanted to talk about it except for Buck. Buck came and we sat down one night. We went out to dinner and had a bottle of wine or two, and we went through everything. And really and what we came out with was we love each other, and we were best friends for quite a number of years. So you can't just toss that out the window. Just because. There was a bad situation, and we both admitted we were culpable. There was stuff that, of
course,
if we acted differently, it would have been a different result. But you can't go back in time. At least I don't know. No. It doesn't seem to be very popular at the moment. So,
Area 51 disagrees with you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So that that was in '95. So it took a long time. I mean, the album came out in '88. I started a lawsuit against them, which we settled out of court.
Yep.
And that was we settled the lawsuit in '89. So that was like 6 years later, finally, I got somebody to talk to me about what happened. And then, then I would go to their shows and it was always kind of weird. I'd go backstage, but, I'd be sitting, or standing in the audience and the people in the audience would run up to me with stuff to sign, so they knew I was there, but the BOC guys didn't want to say anything, or I don't know what it was. I don't know exactly why. And I had said to Eric, I said, Eric, you should just give me a shout out or something. I'm there. You gave me a free pass, just say, hey, I want to shout out, Albert Bouchard, he's here tonight, so, but that didn't happen. So in 2012, we had the I think it's the 40th anniversary of Agents of Fortune, and they did they did a special show in New York City in the fall, right after Hurricane Sandy, and they had called me up and they'd called Joe up and said, can you join us for this show, play a couple songs. And I said, sure. I got a gig that night, but I'll just tell the guy, it's not my gig. It's, this other guy, Steve Marshall, who wanted me to play with him. And I said, I'll just make sure that they take a break and I can run, it was about 3 blocks away, in Times Square. So I said, I'll have them take a break and I'll come over and I'll play with you guys, and then we can practice in the afternoon. So that was cool. And Joe was like, I can't do it. I'm playing on the Simple Man cruise with Leonard Skinner. So he couldn't come. So I said, okay, well, it'll just be the 4 of us, I guess. And then Hurricane Sandy came. Steve Marshall's show got canceled. Joe came back from, Joe did his gig and they rescheduled it for the following weekend. And so Joe could do it too. So we practiced in the afternoon. We played a few songs, with the 5 of us, and which was a total mind blower. Actually, the whole night was a mind blower because they had this thing where you got the exclusive package and you got to take a picture with the band. So you come backstage and they would take a picture and then you'd get out of here. We wouldn't sign anything.
Right.
There was no signatures at the show.
Yep.
So then all of a sudden, Steve Shank, the manager, comes up and he says, okay, we got a break. We've got an exception to the rule. This is Jack Douglas's gold record for On Your Feet or On Your Knees.
Oh, wow.
And somebody owns it and they want you to sign it. So we all signed it. And as we're signing, we're going, I said, this is the best record we ever did. And Donald's like, I think so too. It's the most amazing, to this day, it sounds like bizarre and furious and just relentless. It's just the most amazing record. So,
yeah.
And so we all agreed, that this was the best record, which kind of turned it into a weird thing. Cause then after that, I'm friends with Jack. So I said, how would you like to produce the new Blue Coupe record? Which he did, so he mixed it and co-produced it with us. So, but anyway, back to the show. So we played, and when the 5 of us were on stage, it was weird. It was like not a day had passed. It sounded exactly like we always sounded, and even the people in the audience were like, later on they would say, when you 5 guys played, it sounded exactly like it always sounded, whereas when the new guys played, it still sounded like Blue Oyster Cult, but it was different somehow. So, yeah. So that was, so that was a great thing. And then after that, I think about 6 months later, they played a show in New York, and I went just to say hi. Actually, no, not that. It was the next summer. It was less than a year from that show, and I was on the golf course. I was playing golf with my brother and my cousin.
Right.
And I get a call on the golf course, and Steve says, I got some bad news. And I said, oh no, what? He said, Alan Lanier's passed away. I said, oh no. I said, well, we got to do something. We have to have some sort of tribute, some sort of celebration of his, his life and his friendship and all this. So. Yeah. He said, yeah, we got to do that. We'll do that. This was in August. We're going to do it next month. I'm going to try and clear the schedule. So September came and went, the next year, 14 came. And so they were playing a show in February, I think, in New York City. And I went to the show. I said, guys, we've got to do this thing. It's dragging on, and we don't want to. We want to have this sort of like tribute to our friend, And they're like, yes, we got to do it. But hey, do you want to play with us tonight? I'm like, what? Okay. I mean, I was wearing the corniest clothes ever. I came right from school, so I was wearing my school clothes. Professor Bouchard. So I looked like a real, real square up there with those rock stars, But so I sang a couple songs, I think, with them, and I played drums on something, I think. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I did the gig, and then every time I've gone to see them, they've asked me to play with them. So, which is kind of cool. And of course, in 2016, we finally played that tribute show with Alan, and then they took me on the road with them for about a half a dozen gigs, and we did the video shoot in California with that TV special, which was fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you a couple of things. So you mentioned Jack Douglas, and to me, having grown up in the 70s and 80s, you think of Cheap Trick, you think of Aerosmith, Jack Douglas is superb. But I also grew up at the time of Whitesnake and Iron Maiden and so on and so forth. You've worked with both Martin Birch and Jack Douglas. Just talk to me quickly about them. Like, what made them guys to, you've got Mutt Lange, Martin Birch, Bob Ezrin, Jack Douglas, Bob Rock. I mean, those are sort of the five, Mount Rushmore guys, if you want, of producing. What made them special? And I know Mount Rushmore is 4 people, but we're going for 5.
The guy that did Queen.
Roy Thomas Baker.
You forgot him.
Okay, so there's 6 of them. There's 6 on our Mount Rushmore, but
I would agree with that. All of those 6 were fantastic producers, and I only worked with 2. I knew I hung out with Roy Thomas Baker on several occasions, and I don't know. I think that they, you have to be able to hear inside the song. You have to hear, and you have to be able to not only hear each instrument, but hear the whole too. And so I know that Jack Douglas and Martin Birch were both engineers first, so they really approached producing from a technical perspective. I think that Roy Thomas Baker was not so much.
Right.
He just had grand ideas and he was willing to work on something for just a ridiculous amount of time. I think that that's the other thing is that, and both Jack Douglas and Martin Birch would work on something for way longer than you would think it should take.
Yep. Well, it sounds like the rain's picking up behind you there. Let me just quickly ask you, was there a big difference in their approach? I mean, does Jack and Martin sort of come in and say, okay, you go write the song and you come back to me in a week and do that, or do they sort of have a similar approach? I mean, is it distinct? I mean, when you talk about Rick Rubin, everybody says, well, Rick throws you in the studio and says, come up with some songs and call me back when you're ready. And Bob Ezrin is like, well, we need a this sound and a that sound and a piano and a keyboard and we need a underlying theme and
does
Martin?
Bob Ezrin is much more like a musician approach. I think that that both Jack and Martin were from an engineering standpoint, and not so much all the little parts and stuff, but how to. It's almost like a real artist will look at negative space, and so those guys would look at like the negative space in the soundscape, right? And I think that was their that they painted with sound, rather than trying to figure out riffs or coming up with lyrics or anything like that, whereas Ezrin would do everything. I know I never worked with him, but playing with Dennis Dunaway, you know,
You've heard the stories.
lots of stories, you know, about all the stuff, and even, you know, he's still working with Ezra, so you know, we get new stories from Ezra.
Yeah, I mean, this might be, I don't know if this is rude to say, but I've always thought that Bob Ezrin made Bob Ezrin solo records and then had Kiss play it, and then had Alice Cooper play it, and then had Pink Floyd play it. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if that sounds rude, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I heard that Mutt Lange is like that too. That he can play all the parts, and he writes the stuff, and he Mutt Lange will do the lyrics and everything. You know, I mean,
And the backing vocals, and yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, he's a genius.
He's developed genius techniques for creating.
Listen, when you've got Foreigner 4, Def Leppard, Hysteria, Pyromania, High and Dry, you've got Back in Black, except, you know, Shania Twain, you know, Mutt can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah.
You can't complain there. You've of course been asked a gazillion times about Don't Fear the Reaper and the cowbell, etc., etc., etc. When you try to look it up, no credit is given to who does the cowbell. In fact, here, I'm going to do what I hate doing, but I'm going to quote Wikipedia for a second. And it says, the cowbell on Don't Fear the Reaper may have been played by Albert Bouchard, may have been played by David Lucas, or may have been played by Eric Bloom. Why don't we know?
Well, I think that, you know, memory can play tricks on you. You know, for instance.
But you're the percussionist. You're the drummer.
Well, no. But here's the thing: is that in most of the records, wherever there was a percussion part, especially a cowbell, because Eric Bloom was very good at playing the cowbell. So Eric.
It's a great entry on the CV, by the way.
So Eric played cowbell on a lot of other songs that we recorded.
Right.
So it was logical that he would think that he did it, you know.
Correct.
Now, so, you know, and I think Eric would admit now that, oh yeah, that's the way it happened was that I wanted that David Lucas had recorded Randy Brecker playing, you know, this great trumpet part in the bridge, in the middle section, you know, with the guitar solo. And we were like, we don't need that trumpet there. Don's solo is fantastic. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. Why are we trying to add some, you know, Lonely Bull on this thing? So we made him erase the track. So we had an open track. I said, listen, we got an open track. Let me play a triangle in there. Now that is going to add something. That's going to add something that nobody is going to expect.
Right.
And they said, well, where do you want it? And I said, well, it's going to go boom, 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 ding, boom, boom, boom.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's there. It's there. You can hear it.
Right.
And I kept saying, turn it up. But of course, it was on the same track as the cowbell because David Lucas said, well, okay,
we need more triangle in the right channel, more triangle.
I'll let you do the triangle, but you got to play the cowbell on the verses. And I said, what? Why? Is the track not steady enough? He goes, no, there's just too much bump, 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 bump. And I want bump, bump, bump. I want like quarter notes.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'll try it, you know. But I was already out in the studio, you know, to do that triangle part that I was crazy about. And so we tried a bunch of different things, and eventually, and it was his cowbell, I might add.
Right.
I believe it was a JCR 5-inch cha-cha cowbell.
Right.
JCR was the Julius Rivera. He made the finest cowbells in New York, and David worked with a lot of Latin musicians, so they hipped him to this cowbell. He doesn't have it anymore. He said, I don't know, I got rid of all my stuff. You know, I moved to Florida. So and David Lucas thought he had, I was talking to him. I think we did like a Zoom meeting or something recently, you know, maybe a year or so, 2 years ago at the most. No, there wasn't even Zoom then. So it must have been, it was before the pandemic, but we were talking. And he said, "Yeah, don't you? You know, you guys weren't even there when I did the cowbell. I went in after had gone, and I played it. You guys had all gone back to your houses." And I said, "Oh, David, that's Tenderloin. You played the cowbell on Tenderloin. Don't you remember? I came in and you said, 'Is this okay?' And I said, it's not just okay, it's fantastic. It was a fantastic idea. You know, that's something that just worked, you know, where you went into the cowbell section and I guess it was, I don't know, you know, it was great. It was like it plowed right through all of this syncopation." And he goes, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah."
Yeah. Look at those two trying to take your cowbell credit. That's terrible.
Well, they weren't trying to. They legitimately thought that they had done it, you know, and they had played cowbell.
Right.
You know, David Lucas played cowbell on the record, but
Right.
he didn't play on Reaper because, and the other thing is that after we decided, okay, this is the right sound, because I played it with a timpani mallet with a whole, you know, bunch of tape wrapped around it, so it sounded more like a woodblock or something. And then David Lucas said, "I want a Wiro on there." So you can hear the Wiro, like,
That's hilarious.
you know, I think it's before you go into the second verse.
Right.
And then at the very end of the guitar solo, Donald plays a vibroslap, you know,
Yeah. Those are great.
so, and we did that all in one take,
Wow.
top to bottom. We said, let's just do it. We'll do it all on this one channel, you know, which is why I couldn't turn down the cowbell that much, because
So the bottom line is the world-renowned cowbell that everybody knows is you, and all the other cowbell that nobody really knows about is either Eric or David.
yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's perfect.
All
That's
the other
perfect.
cowbell is those guys.
It's all the other stuff that just blends into the background. It's Eric. But jokes aside, are you surprised at how much of a cultural phenomenon it's become? I mean, you look at movies, you look at Saturday Night Live, and they go, "You need more cowbell," and there's memes, you know, there needs more. I mean, it's become culturally significant.
Yeah, it is a cultural phenomenon. Now,
It's crazy.
in 1984,
Right.
or 83 actually, while I was just starting to do Imaginos, and I was trying to be the lead singer on all the songs, and I was struggling with holding out notes long enough, or my pitch would waver. My pitch was not good, and the musical director of my band, Tommy Morangello, said, "You need to run. You need to build up your lungs, you know, so that they work better." So he started me running. We ran together, you know. We would run before the sessions, and then I would try and sing, you know. But of course, I was still smoking cigarettes and doing all sorts of other stuff that I shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
But and so I continued running. As a matter of fact, in 1984, like about a year and a half later after I first started running, I ran the New York City Marathon
Oh, wow.
first time. And so I've been running races for a long time. I just did the New York City Marathon last week.
Wow.
And now you see all these people playing cowbells. I never saw that in the old days. There was always lots of spectators, but nobody played a cowbell.
It's the greatest
And it's
thing ever.
really because of more cowbell, and this has become a big thing. If you go to any road race, you will see people playing cowbells to encourage the runners, you know, because it gets, you know, you're clapping like this, your hands getting hurt, you know, you're shouting, "Yay!" You know, you know. So the cowbell is the easy thing to make a lot of noise,
Right.
and you know, and make it seem like, you know, they're supporting you in your run.
Here, I'll get off the cowbell after this. Did you after that get like record producer saying, "Hey, you know what? We need a cowbell on this. Got to call up Albert Bouchard. He's the guy. We need a good cowbell. Let's call Albert."
Yeah, As a matter of fact, that just happened
Really?
last year while Blue Oyster Cult was making That Was Me. And they, and I had told them, listen, you guys, you need to, and this is to Richie and Danny and Jules. I said, you guys have been playing with BOC for decades. You need to put your stamp on the brand. You've earned it. You've earned it. So you need to do this. So I said, if you want me to do anything, I'll do anything you want me to do. But I'm not asking you, oh, you got to have me on the record or anything like that. This has got to be your record. And if you want songs, I'll help you with songs. If you want me to help you write a song or anything like that, I'm happy to do that. I'm in. So Richie Castellano calls me up and says, "Hey man, we got this song and I need a cowbell." I said, "Oh, is that it?" He goes, "No. Why don't you? You and Eric always sound good, when you harmonize because your voices are so different. So why don't you add some harmony to his vocal?" I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Anything else you want?" I said, "Should I play a lead guitar?" He goes, "Nah." I got that.
Want me to bring the triangle? I got my triangle ready.
Yeah. So
and my wood block.
I played like 4 or 5 parts. I played some keyboards and a bunch of percussion, plus the cowbell, plus the vocals, and they only use the cowbell on the record. Although there is a Japanese edition, it's an acoustic version of it, and they use all my parts.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Before we wrap up, you were on the Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell tour, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
With BOC.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me just quickly about that, because obviously they bring in Ronnie James Dio, who's just a powerhouse vocalist. The album ends up being, bigger and better than anybody thought. You can't replace Ozzy. Well, apparently you can. What was that like? Was there a sense of excitement on that tour? Was there a sense of dread? Was there a sense of, oh my God, can we do this without Ozzy? Do you have any kind of memory of, was it a fun tour, or was it on pins and needles?
It was a bit of everything, I would have to say. When we first heard about it, of course, I was, being a huge Black Sabbath fan.
Right.
And, the thing is, I didn't know Vinny Appice then, but I did know Ronnie Dio because he was a legend in upstate New York. And I saw him play in Watertown, New York, with Ronnie Dio and the Prophets when I was in 10th grade. I guess I would have been 16. And I said, wow, this guy, he played the bass and he sang like Tom Jones. He was amazing. He had the most, just like a depth of his voice. It was so full,
no kidding.
And, here we are doing our little Beach Boy covers and he's like, singing like a man. We're singing like the boys. Yeah. So, because we had a band all through high school and even in before high school and junior high school. So with my brother and my cousins. So we saw Ronnie Dio and he just knocked us out. And of course, then I kept running into him and, we'd play fraternity parties,
Wow.
A few years later, and he's playing fraternity parties too. So we go, oh, Ronnie Dio's over at Alpha Chi, so we go over to Alpha Chi, on a break and hear him for a few minutes and then go back. And even when he joined Richie Blackmore, they recorded in the same studio that here, I gotta let the cat in.
Yeah, let the cat in. That's great. And I've got to make sure that the dog over here is satiated. Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting tired of the rain. He was sitting on the chair opposite me, but the rain is blowing this way, so it hasn't got to me.
I can't even
yet.
imagine. I've got a dog over here who's under blankets, and all I'm seeing is his tongue pop out every so often because he's looking to the air, so it's kind of strange. But welcome to Mitch's Animal Kingdom this afternoon.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, what a great tour! And of course, Watertown, New York, not too far from me. That's where I go to the what is it, Salmon Run Mall or Salmon River Run Mall or whatever they call it
Yeah,
up
yeah,
there.
it's a big mall there. Yeah, I go
Yeah.
there too.
Are you still in Watertown? Are you still in that area?
No, but I have two brothers that live in, one lives in Cape Vincent, which is,
Right.
the first town. It's opposite Wolf Island, so it's like right opposite Kingston, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's strange because there's a bunch of shows there every summer. I've seen in the last couple of years, well, before the pandemic, I saw Foreigner there. I saw Lit with Buck Cherry. I saw Cheap Trick. It's like this like a
Yeah,
weird sort of
yeah.
happening
Well,
concert place. Hey,
it is a tourist trap, basically.
yeah,
That's the income of. Well, there's two main income streams for the people there.
Fort
One is
Drum,
Well, okay, more than two, but the
three.
main one are cheese. At least when I was growing up, it was cheese and tourism, and Clayton, New York, which is really where I grew up, it was a big stop for the people from New York City. There was an express train that went right from Grand Central to Clayton, New York. Clayton was the end of the line. It's right on the St. Lawrence. So, and Clayton is basically opposite Gananoque. Well, yeah, basically opposite Gananoque. So, you know,
Yeah,
you, you know where that is. That's where the casino is.
yeah, Akwesasne and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait.
So,
So is Clayton near Messina or Malone?
that's more northeast, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyway,
It's right down, but right by Lake Ontario. And so I have two brothers that live up there. And then also my family has a cottage on Wellesley Island, which is the second largest island in the Thousand Islands, Wolf Island being the largest. So
the largest. Anyway, let's before we get into a deep geography lesson, Blue Coop with Dennis Dunaway and your brother,
yeah,
is that still a current thing? I mean, I know you do tours, but
yeah,
are we still working on new music? Are we still considering
yes,
albums? Because I bought them, I have them. They're
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good stuff.
We're working on like a, it's, I don't know, I guess it'd be like an odds and sods package because we've made three records and each record has had stuff left over that we
Right.
started to record. We went into the studio, we worked on it, and then we said, we got enough stuff. Let's just go with these other songs. And it it wasn't a matter of were they better or worse. It was just a matter of they were just not as developed as the other
Right.
songs. So we got a proposal from a record distribution company. They want to put out a deluxe package because we also have created three videos
Mm-hmm.
that nobody's ever seen. For the 11 even record. Okay, so we put out one, but we have three more that we never put out because, well, basically the pandemic happened. We had planned a tour that summer, and we had a really great, what you would call an anchor gig in Finland. So we were going to do a whole, UK, Scandinavia tour in the summer, last summer. Was it last summer? Yeah.
Yeah. And of course,
No
didn't
problem.
happen.
Yeah. Not last summer, 2020, summer of 2020. So it didn't
Right.
happen. And so we had been working on these videos and we said, okay, we're just going to wait until we can actually tour. So we have a gig. Well, we have a couple gigs up in, that they're not solid yet, but there's a couple shows in Canada and one in upstate New York that we're working on for this July. So,
Oh, nice.
but in the middle of all of that, I'm playing with the Dictators. So I'm doing
Yeah. Keeping
gigs
busy.
with the Dictators as well. And in August, I think that the Dictators are going to do some European shows. So that's, I'm going to be busy. This is definitely going to be a busy summer for me.
Good.
And
We like that.
I have gigs already lined up. I'm playing with Robert Gordon, my friend for like 40 years, and we wrote about 40 songs 40 years ago. Well, maybe, over the course of 2 or 3 years, we wrote a bunch of songs with my friend, this top 40 guy, Mark Barkin, who unfortunately passed away from COVID last year.
Oh.
But so, and Robert, when Mark passed, I called up Robert and I said, I got some bad news. And he said, oh, is it Mark? I said, yeah. He goes, I thought with this COVID that it might get him because he's an older guy, Robert and I are the same age.
Right.
And Mark Barkin was about 13 years older than us.
Right.
So, yeah, he, well, I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, we started talking and I said, listen, we got all these songs and you only recorded like 2 or 3. Because I recorded more than that. I said, well, how many did you put out? He goes, 2. I said, so you got these songs in the can? He goes, yeah. I said, well, he said, well, listen, can you help me with, I have this new record called Rockabilly for Life that's out on Cleopatra and nobody seems to know about it. So, and I don't like some of the mixes. I want them to change it. So I had already recorded a record for Cleopatra with this guy, Don Falcone,
right.
Spirits Burning. It was a Spirits Burning featuring Michael Moorcock. And we did 2 records. First one was on Gonzo, which was, wow, that was terrible because, I had, people from BOC and, my brother Joe and, my whole, Andy Chernoff from Dictators. I had all my people on this record. And so they put it out, they pressed up 1,000 copies and it sold out within 2 weeks.
Wow.
They didn't press up another 1,000 for 8 months because they had other records on their schedule. I don't know. They were underfinanced. I don't know. Gonzo is an English label. So
that's why you go to Cleopatra. Brian Pereira does great work.
Yeah. So Cleopatra did a bang up job with this Michael Moorcock thing.
Brian's great.
There's plenty of CDs to buy, and and they get it into the Apple Music and all that other stuff. Gonzo couldn't even do that. So Robert had a record, and he was upset that it wasn't getting enough attention. So I called up the people from Cleopatra that I knew, and and I helped him out, and they definitely got him out there now. So he said, well, how about we put out all these old songs that I never released on Cleopatra? Can you help me do that? I said, sure. So we actually went through all of the songs, and I would say, well, this is there's just a rhythm guitar here. And he's like, yeah, but let me ask, Chris Betting played on all the songs.
Right.
He said, let me ask Chris. He's out in England. He's quarantining there, but he's got a studio in his house. So then Chris and I and Robert, we started communicating, and Chris actually put, extra guitar parts on almost all the songs, and it sounds fantastic. So that we just finished that. So I've been playing gigs with him now. I played four shows in October, and then 4 shows in October with him, and we have a few more in February. So, and plus now I have also my Imaginos band that is playing the songs from Reimaginos and Imaginos 2. Plus, I got to do the
Part
one
3.
Well, we're not going to play any part 3 songs, I don't think. Well, we might actually, because Sandy is not around to write all the songs. I know the story, what's supposed to happen with the story. I'm not sure about the ending. He said, oh, we don't need an ending. I'm like, yes, you need an ending. It's like 3, But anyway, one of the many arguments I had with Sandy about what to be done. But I knew, kind of the idea. So I'm probably going to use some other songs BOC songs that fit, you know, in the concept of the story, and we'll just take it from there. So, but I don't know. Like I say, I just started doing demos for these songs. You know, I put them up on my computer, and I don't know, I guess I got about 17, 18 songs to choose from. So we'll see.
We'll see.
So
Well,
yeah, it's a lot of stuff I've been doing. You know, it's pretty great. You know, I was a teacher for 31 years, and all that time I kept putting out records and touring and stuff like that. But I had a day job, and I really couldn't do much. You know, the other thing is that in those 31 years, the first 3 years I was getting my bachelor's because I had dropped out of college to be in Blue Oyster Cult. So I had only 2 years of college.
Were you teaching in university, or were you teaching in high school? And was it like, and what were you teaching on? Was music, or was it like history?
It was everything. I did every job in the school, including every pedagogical job in the school, other than foreign language. I didn't.
I was going to say the French classes would have been hilarious with you.
Yeah,
Bonjour. That's about it, folks. We're done.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. We're done. See you in June.
Yeah. Where do I get a hamburger around this place?
Oh, that's great. Listen, Imaginos 2, Bombs Over Germany, -0 and Counting, is out. Came out on October 21st, so go check that out. And it sounds like we're going to have to talk again because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So let's do a part 2, and let's also let's raise a toast to all the people in Watertown. It's a great city. I love my Watertown. And there you go.
Yeah.
As we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup.
Yes.
Was that part of the French class? Au revoir. Have a good day. Thank you for everything. Absolute pleasure.
Okay. Bye.
Here we go. Let me